Welcome back to the Check Swing Podcast, y'all, with myself and, of course, the star of the show, the brains behind Ration, my man, Coach. What's
Yo.
going on, Dirtbag? As it across the street, y'all.
Yeah, yeah. Doing well, sir. How about you?
I'm all right. Can't complain. Can't complain. I was thinking today. It's dangerous when I do that. Um, but I was at work and I was like, "Whew, I'm glad tomorrow's Thursday." I'm like,
Whoops.
damn, today is actually no. I was like, I thought it was going to be Friday. Like, yo, this week has been a long week, and then we're only 2 days in. I don't know how it's been for you, but for me, it's been a long week, and we're only 2 days in.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long week. Without revealing, without breaking any HIPAA violations, we have to provide customer service to students at the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and we have this one guy that thinks he's God's gift to women, but he comes in smelling like aquavelva and like rat turds, and thinks that he just is all. You ever meet somebody like as a coach? You and I have met this one person. Never really was a star at the game, but can tell you how to coach. They can tell you every single worthless stat that their their son has, and then when they go on the field, then they crap the bed or whatever. Then all of a sudden, you don't hear anything from them anymore. So he's one of those guys.
So I gotta ask you if you were talking about anybody. Were you talking about somebody that we actually met before?
As far as
Because
a parent,
now my wheels are turning. Like, I wonder who he's talking about. And you're looking around now.
yeah, yes and no.
Okay. So what? So it wasn't a true story, but it was based on a true story.
There you go. Facts based on true events
Gotcha, gotcha. And you changed all the names to protect the innocent. I get
and to protect the stupid. Yes.
it. Well, we got some things that we're going to talk about today. As you may or may not know, the NBA playoffs have started. They started over the weekend. The Sixers are in it, so of course I'm locked. Um, but we're going to talk about that a little bit. The Phillies are on a roll, and they're off to their best start in how long, Coach Santa? 7 years, something like that. I can't hear you anymore.
What?
There we go. Yeah,
Can you
now
hear it? Yeah, no.
gotcha, gotcha. So,
I want to say 2018 or something crazy like that.
oh, you're sounding kind of robotic. Do I sound robotic? No, I can't hear you at all. You may have to leave and come back. I don't know. We're having technical. Hey, this was what live streaming is, folks. That's what it is. No, I don't hear anything. No, I don't hear anything. Okay, well there it is. He is gone. I Miguel will be returning shortly. I guess he's going to fix up all of his issues, all the things that he's got going on. I don't even mean to say it like that. Like, man, he's got issues. He's got some technical difficulties, so he's going to fix that. Um, but the Phillies are on a roll right now. They not tonight, but they are on a roll right now, and they are off to one of their best starts in quite a few years. And I want to know. We want to know. Do you think this is the year? Is this the year that it can happen? As I see, Coach Santa has returned. Coach Santa, you got me.
Mic check 1 2.
You sound great. You sound
Sweet.
great. I was just telling them that we wanted to know is this year the year for the Phillies? They're off to one of their best starts in about 7 years or so. Um, it's got to be more than that, right? Well, no, season's still young, so they did come out sometime when they were still bums. Um, so is this the year though? We'll talk about it. Hit us up 669-275-03. Oh shoot, I'm giving out the old number. 669 is there on the bottom screen. 669-275-0548. 669-275-0548. Let us know. Do you think this is the year for the Phillies? I mean, we're only a month into the season, right? Not even a month. So I know it's early. So you don't have to tell me it's too early to ask that question. No, we asked that question after the first Eagles game, just like everybody else. People asked that question after the first Sixers game, just like everybody else. And I can remember last year, or was it 2 years ago? I think we swept the Braves first series of the season, and people were like, "Oh, we're going to the World Series. We're going to win this all year." As we know, I think the Braves won it that year.
No, that was the year we went to the World Series.
But we didn't win it. I'll tell you that.
We didn't win it. Yeah.
I remember because I was there in my house watching. But we also want to talk about a baseball manager that got ejected. And you may be like, well, that happens a lot. Well, it doesn't really happen that much in the first inning. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But we also want to talk about, the NFL draft is coming up. And what do the Eagles need? What do you feel the Eagles need? What do you want to see the Eagles go after in the draft? Hit us up.
Coach. Sorry.
669-275-0548. Let us know what you think the Eagles should go after in the draft. I mean, a lot of people say linebacker. A lot of people say cornerback. A lot of people feel like they'll probably draft an offensive lineman. What do you think? Hit us up. Let us know. We'll get to the Bill Belichick thing a little later. Stay tuned for that. There's a Bill Belichick thing. If you haven't heard, there's a Bill Belichick thing. It has something to do with the Eagles. Just stay locked. All right, stay locked. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want to have some fun and talk about this manager that got tossed in the first inning.
And base umpire you saw making that call.
You're not yelling at me. I did what I was supposed to do and check. I'm looking for him to get hit by the pit. You got anything else to say? You're gone. Okay?
Oh, okay, Hunter. Wow. You know what? We're not going to need a John Boy breakdown of that one. We got a very clear.
Aaron,
there you go. And now Aaron's saying I didn't say anything. Aaron's saying, hold on a second, I didn't say a word.
Well, as you can see here, you saw as the camera was on the manager.
We're not going to need a John Boy breakdown of that one.
Sorry about that. Didn't mean to start it over. I didn't know that word was going to come out, but oh well, it is what it is. We're all grown here. As you can see, he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything and got tossed. But the funny thing about it is when there's another video, and in that other video, I don't know if you've seen it, Miguel. I've seen the video, but there it is right there. There's the angle right there.
Yeah.
That's it. You can see the fan in the blue shirt right above the dugout.
Mm-hmm.
He yelled something.
Mm-hmm. And I guess he sounded so close to Aaron Boone that through his voice. My favorite thing is when it does happen, the guy starts looking around like what the hell happened? But I think above everything else too, I guess the umpire's reaction to it was, I don't care who it was, but you're gone. And it's an interesting explanation. If you can post up the slide.
Which one? Slide
Yeah, then I'll go through it. So apparently they did speak to Hunter Wendelstead, who's the son of another, I forget his father's name, but he was also a famous umpire who umpired for like 30 some years. But basically his rationale for throwing him out, he said that Aaron Boone is the manager of the New York Yankees and is responsible for everything that happens in that dugout. I don't want to eject a ball player. We need to keep them in the game. That's what the fans pay to see. Aaron Boone runs the Yankees. He got ejected. And then it set up more on I believe the person he was speaking to kind of explained that it was the fan that actually said it and not Aaron Boone. And then his response was apparently what he said was there was a fan right above the dugout. This isn't my first ejection in the entirety of my career. I have never ejected a player or manager for something a fan has said, even though he actually did that. I understand that's going to be part of a story or something like that because that's what Aaron was portraying, even though he wasn't portraying it actually happened. I heard something came from the far end of the dugout, even though it came to right behind him. Had nothing to do with his area, but he's the manager of the Yankees, so he's the one that had to go.
So what he's saying, oh, I'm sorry, there's more. I'm sorry.
Right. So again, speaking to this reporter, he said everything you said is exactly kind of what was communicated on the field. That's what Aaron said. He said that a fan said it. I said, I don't care who said it. It's foolish to throw out a player if you don't know who did it. The manager's there. Aaron took the hit, and he probably, is not the one who made the comment. But once again, he's the manager. It's almost like you can't admit that you made a mistake. God forbid. And there's a lot of people that are complaining about, or a lot of baseball fans that complain about, like, between stuff like this and Aaron Hernandez being able to literally not be good at what they do or make decisions like this, and all they can do is just double down. Well, that's the decision I made, and that's that, which is not a rational decision. But
well, let's assume he's not lying about what he said, the umpire, right? He said it come from the far end of the dugout, so he would be throwing Aaron Boone out for something somebody else said that's on the team. Mm-hmm. Which goes in line with everything else he had said. Like, he's the manager, he's responsible, basically, right? But here's one thing that I was wondering when I saw. Sorry about that. Here's something I was wondering when I saw the video, that other angle where you could see the fan. You can hear everything being said on that field, but you can't hear what that fan says.
Right.
But you can hear. But apparently, the umpire was able to hear what the fan said. Why can't we hear it? Which kind of almost leads me to believe that maybe somebody did say something down the far end of the dugout.
I mean, when you look at the video, it was perfectly timed if that was the case.
Something. Yeah, obviously the guy said something. But my question is, since we didn't even hear like a note, right? Since we didn't hear like a note of what he said, I'm wondering, like, was it him that the umpire heard?
I don't know. It sounds like you're giving the umpire an out.
It's pretty loud to say for somebody to hear it from the stands. And you could hear Aaron Boone saying something when he was saying something. You could hear Aaron Boone. He's not that far behind him.
Right. Well, let's see if we can hear it. Let's go back to the video.
All right, let's check it out.
And we'll turn the volume up.
So the fan in the blue shirt is the one who says something to Hunter Wendelstedt. That's what he reacts to.
So
you saw making that.
I'll go back a little bit.
I did what I was supposed to do.
There it is. Okay, we'll start from again.
I'm looking for him to get hit by the pit. You got anything else to say? You're gone.
Okay, Hunter. Wow. You know what? We're not going to need a John Boy breakdown of that one. We got a very clear. Well, there you go.
Yeah, I don't hear it.
Aaron saying I didn't say anything. Aaron saying, hold on a second, I didn't say
Now,
a word.
Aaron Boone heard something. The point is right up there to where the guy is.
I did not say any word.
I was trying to get it before he cuts, but
Oh,
yeah,
forgot.
I think yeah, between the booze and I don't know.
Do you
I think I
possibly the umpire just wanted to throw him out?
yes, I do. I think umpires. If you
He
ever
kinda
go on
gets
YouTube,
out by
if you ever, huh?
and he kind of gets bailed out because that fan looks like he said something, but maybe the umpire didn't hear anything at all. Just said, you know what, F it, I'm gonna throw him out.
Right. I think umpires are so high strung today. And a part of it is through their training, like they're trained not to like take no mess from the from anybody and stuff. But when you look at, because you know me, I like to look at like old games and stuff like that. But I saw a couple of arguments, I'll say, right? And I think there was a couple in particular, like one with Dallas Green, where he goes out and talks to the umpire and he's like cursing and he's throwing his hat, whatever. He doesn't get kicked out after like a 5-minute argument, because at the end of the day, it's like, well, I made the call. Like everything else you say is just whatever, whatever. But it's like umpires today, they're just so quick to give the hook, and it's like you're throwing. It's like you have to wonder why somebody is being ejected.
Here. Can I go ahead and give you the Here's what it is. Hold on, let me take a sip before I dilly into this. Hold on. I don't know what a professional umpire makes per game or per year, right?
Base salary is 150,000, 180.
For the year.
Mhm.
Okay, so they're making $150,000, $180,000 a year.
That's
right?
a non-tenured like first couple years.
No one on the field is making close to that, right? So as an umpire, I gotta come out here and I gotta be the umpire in this hot ass sun for these guys making all this money. And now they want to yell at me and question what I'm doing. These millionaires want to question what I'm doing in this hot sun. I got this doggone jacket on. I got this blazer on in the sun. I don't know why. I got these
But
long pants on in the sun with all this equipment on. And you want to give me lip? Man,
well, in the summertime, I would agree with you, but it was actually like 62 during this game.
We get warmed up. There's more to come in the summer. To be continued. You watch.
Oh Lord!
Watch. And the Phillies and Dela Cruz just put one out. 2-run home run. So there's no point in watching the Phillies right now. You just watch us because the Phillies are getting cooked right now. I don't even want to talk about Angel Hernandez being bad. Like after that, like that's too much. That's too much umpire talk for one day for me. I do want to mention quickly because I don't want to really get into it that long. The Sixers in the playoffs.
That's probably how long it'll take. They'll probably be eliminated. They'll be eliminated by the time we mention them again.
Here you go. Aren't you supposed to be a Sixers fan?
Dude, I am a Sixers. I'm a 4-for-4 guy, but like we got to call a spade a spade. Marcus Hayes wrote a column about the Sixers being whining.
Well, there's your mistake right there, Marcus Hayes. But go ahead.
I like Marcus Hayes. I didn't like him at first. It took me like 10 years to like Marcus Hayes because he came off as a smug little jackwagon.
Marcus Hayes is cool, but he is a bit smug.
Not John Smallwood, but he rests in peace, smug. But he had his own smugness. But I think to me,
I didn't find John Smallwood smug.
I think it depends. It always depended. Like he was a Sixer defender and an Iverson defender for a while. But I think with certain things he was. But overall, it wasn't the smugness of Marcus Hayes. But
Let me
I,
let, let me hold on. I'm sorry. I just want to say one more thing about Marcus Hayes. Marcus Hayes is a hell of a columnist, right?
mhm.
Marcus Hayes to me feels like he's trying to take the Howard Eskin type role. It's like he's the Howard Eskin of the paper. And let me also say, let me continue to say, because I'm not really blasting Marcus Hayes. A lot of what we come to find out, a lot of what Howard Eskin used to talk about was true, came to fruition.
Mhm.
So
Except for that one story against Allen Iverson, where he had to publicly apologize for 30 straight days on WIP, which people seem to forget. But hey,
I never knew about that.
so there was a story.
Just tell me when it happened.
This was like, I think, either the year before or the year after they went to the finals.
Okay.
It
That's
was,
why I care about it.
yeah, it
Okay.
was, it was. I think it was a really weird story. It was like Allen Iverson and his girl at the time, who wound up becoming his wife soon, they got into an argument. She had a gay friend. He went to find her at the gay friend's house and he pulled a gun on him.
I remember that. I do
Remember
remember.
that? So,
I believe that was after. That was
right.
after. No, that wasn't before.
So Eskin reported that Iverson actually carried a gun, but upon further investigation, it wound up not being true and everything got thrown out. But Iverson was so pissed off at Eskin that he forced him to publicly apologize. So he had to do a recorded apology before every show for 1 month. So I think it was something like, but this is Howard Eskin. I just wanted to say I'd like to publicly apologize to Allen Iverson. The story that I did was incorrect. Da, 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 da. So for 30 days, he got that man to apologize. So mad respect.
Let's put the questions back out there for some people that just may be tuning in. The Phillies are off to outside of tonight. The Phillies are off to one of their best starts in quite some time. I mean, we're less than a month in, but it's one of the best starts in less than a month, or quite a few years, but in this time frame. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. Is this the year? We want to hear from you. We want to know, do you think this is the year the Phillies take it all? Hit us up 669-275-0548, or you can put your comments in the chat there, and we'll put them on the screen and all that good stuff. So to back to the Sixers, they're down 0-2 to the Knicks. And I'm going to tell you, Miguel, I'll be quite honest with you. I'm sure you probably didn't watch. But Embiid does not look healthy to me.
Can I ask a question? When was the last time he ever looked healthy to you?
Before he got hurt.
Which was when? He's been hurt every year of his life.
He has, but when he was cooking the league, he looked very healthy until that guy jumped on his leg. And the guy didn't jump until the guy landed on his leg in Golden State in the game I was watching back in January. And he just ain't looked right since. Now, that night, he shouldn't have probably played that game because they were showing he didn't look right before that game. But, whatever, they're trying to get him back into the swing of things. But before that, because he was out for a little bit before that, he was cooking the league. I mean, he was cooking. And he probably, the rate he was going probably would have won MVP again, quite honestly. But that's neither here nor there. They're down 2-0 to the Sixers, right? Or excuse me, to the Knicks. 0-2, they're down 0-2, down 2-0. They're down by 2 games. They haven't won one yet. Okay. And I feel like, personally, the Sixers are the better team. I feel like they probably should have won both of the games that they've played so far. Last night, they completely blew that one. And Nick scored 8 points in the last 30 seconds, something like that. 10 points in the last 30 seconds, something crazy like that. With some controversy, and because if you were watching the game last night, with that whole sequence there at the end, I looked at the scoreboard and a little bug on the corner of the screen. I said, they have a timeout. Why didn't they call a timeout? Why didn't they call a timeout in that situation? Why? And if you would look into it, I don't have the video here, but he did. Nick Nurse did call a timeout. He wasn't granted the timeout. So
There was pictures all over the internet too. Like he's like this in front of the ref, and the ref's just like,
yeah, I can understand that one. That honestly, Miguel, I'll be honest with you, I was mad about that game last night, and I don't tend to get mad about games that my teams lose.
mm,
I mean, I might get angry for a second, or I might react or something like that, but I don't tend to get mad. Like I was actually mad at that game last night because it was just. I know the Knicks are a very physical team, right? So Miguel, you might like this though. The Knicks are a physical team. They're not as physical as the '90s Knicks
mhm.
because now rules are different, right? But if the '90s Knicks played today, this would be them.
Okay.
Right, with less skill. I don't think they have as much skill as that '90s Knicks team, but and I do think the Sixers are better. So Daryl said, "Did you hear what the NBA said about the end of the game?" I did not. Let us know in the comments real quick if you have a chance. I would like to know what the NBA said. I was looking some stuff up, but I didn't see. But that also leads to also the other game that was last night, the Lakers and the Nuggets. Now I didn't watch that game, but when I looked on the TV this morning, there was some controversy about replay and refs in that game too. So I want to ask you this, Miguel, because we just talked about what was his name, Wendell
Mm-hmm.
and of course we decided not to talk about Angel Hernandez, who's got to be probably the worst umpire in the league. At least his mistakes are magnified. And now you're hearing this stuff about the NBA. Are I hate putting these two words back to back because I don't know. I can never get them out correctly. Are our officials? Damn, I gotta say it again. Are our officiating teams getting worse throughout the year? Like, are they just getting worse?
Two
Now,
things.
I like to say our world is being run by C students now. So are these like we're the old umpires, the A students now? It's the C students now. Like, what we got?
But you know what? Like it's one thing when there's obvious close calls, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes you think, okay, maybe it was how fast it was, like because a lot of times like we can cherry pick and we Monday buddy we armchair quarterback. When we
Mhm.
slow everything down and everything is in super slow mo, it's like, oh my god, he was out by a mile. But then when you play it in real time, it's like, okay, wait a minute, that looked a lot closer than it was. You know what I mean? Because athletes are bigger, they're faster, they're better, all that, blah 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 blah. But when it comes to like what Wendelstedt did, right? And then you see blatant calls with a referee or an official looking right at it and not doing a damn thing.
Mhm.
You're seeing that more and more, and not to be a conspiracy theorist, but we'll play the conspiracy game. Ever since legalized gambling has been allowed at venues in all states, it's hard not to go the route of maybe these games are fixed. They've been talking about it in the NFL for how many years? The last like 4 Super Bowls, they've had quote unquote the Super Bowl emblem with the colors of the teams before they were even playing in the game, before that was decided and all that stuff. and then certain calls that were made, like the call that ended the Eagles' Super Bowl. It's like they don't even make that call 9 times out of 10 in the regular season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, it was Bradbury's. Bradbury was the one who made the penalty, right? You know, to his credit, he didn't back down and say it wasn't a penalty. He just was surprised that they called it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like stuff like that. It's like calls of judgment versus calls of like speed is, I guess, what I'm trying to get. Like these judgment calls, like, you know, I'm sure there's a stat out there that there's more calls at the end of a game than there are at the beginning of a game, and I'm sure there's a stat out there that there's more calls during a home game than there are, you know, for the away team, you know, whatever. So it just seems like there's just too many coincidences to me. And it just so happens to coincide with the entrance of gambling into everyday sports. I hate to say it, but
you just feel like it's more controversial now because there's been controversy.
There's been controversy for years. I mean, like I always look at like really big blown calls, like that perfect game, right? 10 or 15 years ago, you know, he could get the last out. It was a Detroit versus Cleveland, and umpire calls the runner at first safe when he was out by like 2 feet. And I was like, okay, there was nothing. Gambling wasn't legal then. There was nothing to gain out of that. It was just an honest mistake. You know what I mean? In a World Series, there's Denkinger, the call in the '85 World Series that technically cost St. Louis their Game 6 win, even though in the series they batted like 098 and they could have still gotten 3 outs after the fact, whatever the case may be. Honest mistake. But the mistakes that are being made since the entrance of gambling, they're just like straight just balls and strikes, right? It's, you know, if it's borderline, okay, I get it. But 3 feet, 4 feet outside of the strike zone, and then you call it different at the end of the game, middle, like to me, it's like almost blatantly obvious.
I tell you what, based on your theory right now, some of these games I've coached in must have been on them. Some of them sports books. The strikes have been called in the games I've coached in are unreal. You wouldn't believe it.
You got to check the over and under on FanDuel for on the days that you coached.
Listen, it's man, it's unreal.
But and I guess the calls are magnified, you know, now because you're seeing more of them in the playoffs. You're seeing more of them in big games, like just obvious. You know what I mean? It's almost like a version of point shaving to me. You know?
Well, I was going to mention there is just I can't think of his name because I didn't think we were going to go there today. But if if somebody can think of can tell me the person's name, there was a guy in the NBA that just got banned for life, basically for gambling.
Oh yeah, I'll look him up.
I forgot what his name was, but you know he was making some people some money. So, and then there was of course you had Shohei Ohtani and that whole situation, right? But in that situation, it was the interpreter. You know, that's what we were been told.
What was it really? The interpreter?
Hey, listen, hey, that's what we've been told. That's all I can really go by. That's what we were told. It was the interpreter. Was it really? I don't know. A lot of people don't believe it was, but you know, it is what it is.
Jonte Porter is the NBA player.
Jonte Porter, the NBA player who was, we'll just say point shaving. Maybe that's not what we should say. But
he's banned for life for gambling.
Banned for life from the NBA. He was fixing bets in a sense, and you know, what if we find out later on in life these umpires are doing the same thing? Which brings me back to a point that you wanted to bring up a while ago. Is the robo umpire around the corner?
Yes.
I'm going to say, here's why I'll say no. Because I almost feel like it is, but here's why I would say it shouldn't be. I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say it shouldn't be. Because you will get even more controversy with a robo umpire.
How?
Because I'm telling you right now, you will see something and the umpire will not call it safe or out or something like that. And straight conspiracy, this somebody programmed it to lie. Because we've seen instant replay calls that were obvious, but still haven't gotten overturned. So it's not like we haven't seen plays that were obvious and still not get overturned. So it's not like we won't see the umpire, computer umpire, robo umpire make a bad call because somebody is pushing the button. Somebody has to program the thing.
Yeah, but
and it's probably going to have to be calibrated before every game and possibly before every inning.
it actually will be calibrated to every player because remember, every player of their different sizes to every player. So I think they actually talked about this. It's almost like when they do the concussion protocols in like sports, you do the measurements preseason and stuff like that. So that way they have a baseline during the season. That's all they would do for the plays in the regular season. They would just say, okay, let's see your strike zone. Okay, you're right about there. Which wouldn't be a difficult thing. It would be time consuming because you have a couple thousand players in the league. But I just think it would be hard. It would be too difficult to do because it's live. It's like, and you see it right there. And have you seen how they do it in the minors?
No, but I'm trying to tell you, it doesn't matter.
No. Here's how they do it in the minors. This may change your mind.
You can go through the story, but go ahead.
Look. Pitch is called. Umpire calls a strike. Batter taps his head. Umpire calls time and looks up into the booth. And then they come back down. And then the call is made within like 2 seconds. It's a ball. The runner walks to first base. But it's right there. Like it's like you've seen how they do it in tennis when they do in and out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like that. Like if the ball is obviously out.
Let me jump in here. Okay, let me use the tennis example because I watch tennis.
You watch Serena Williams, not tennis. They're two totally different things.
So let me. You're right, but let me correct you. I watched before Serena came about.
Fair enough.
Serena kept me interested.
Fair enough.
Okay. I have been watching less since she's gone, but I'm just saying. Okay.
One has nothing to do with the other.
When you see I think they call it the Cyclops in tennis. I know they call it the Cyclops. I know they used to call it the Cyclops. They might call it something different now. When you see that, right? When they show you that, what do they show you? Tell me what they show you.
In tennis?
Yeah, when they show you the replay of the ball, whether it's in out. Tell me what.
Yeah, they show the line. They show where the ball. They show the ball coming to the point of contact with the ground. They show the actual spot, the exact spot where the ball lands, and then it goes off. And then they say
ball lands is like little. They darken it, right?
Right.
Here's what you didn't mention. That's all animated. That's not a live ball doing that. That's all animated. So somebody has to, maybe not at the time, put in the calculations, but somebody has to program the thing. Right? So now you open up a whole nother can of worms of who's programming it. Who are they? Who are they going to be neutral, or who might they be a fan of?
They're going to be a fan for whoever pays them top dollar for that product. That's who they're going to be the fan of.
Guess what? Guess who was paying the dude in Toronto top dollar for his basketball product? The Toronto Raptors in the NBA. But he messed that up.
but it's easier not to say that, it's, I mean, it is easier because he got away with it for so long. But when you're talking about an animated call for replay, it's like this is like finding the damn glove on the OJ Simpson compound. Okay, that's what this is like. It's like right there.
But see, we have to trust it. We have to trust the animation. Yeah, please don't break your camera. We have to trust it because that's all they're giving. They're not showing us the live replays super zoomed in.
Right, but hold on. But when you see the so basically, okay, the little box when we watch our baseball games right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the animation. That's it.
Right, but it's also not perfect because that box does not change for each player.
Which is true, but imagine that it does.
Imagine
and actually, I don't know that. And actually, I don't
aspect to program the program.
But I don't. But actually, I don't know that that's true either. Because, and I only say that because like De La Cruz's strike zone is obviously much bigger than I think whoever their third baseman is.
Jose Altuve.
Right. But they managed to
But
in
I've
the
never
game.
seen that box change size.
Yeah, but if you put Aaron Judge next to Altuve, the box would be like to his forehead.
It should be, but it's not. You understand what I'm saying? That box that we see now, which is not official,
Okay.
it never changes size. It's the box. They put a strike zone up there just so you have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not official. Obviously, because it don't count.
Right, and they always say like the center field camera is actually slightly off into either right or left field, which I get. But I just think something that obvious you can't mess up versus continuously using human judgment, which they're getting worse at. It's one thing if the umpires were getting all the calls right, they were consistent, they may miss a call here and there. But it's like you have Angel Hernandez who's like either he's blatantly missing these calls or he's got some sort of imbalance. Because I know he does like jujitsu and like yoga in the middle of innings and stuff. So maybe his equilibrium is off. Maybe he has bad eyesight. Maybe all of the above. But of course, he's protected by his union, so he's allowed to suck without any real major repercussions.
Let me ask you this, because we both said that like it's getting worse, right? But I just had a thought: is it getting worse, or do we have more ways to see the mistake now?
Both. And I only say that because like I look at like old games a lot, and I look at like patterns of strike zones, and those strike zones were pretty big. You know what I mean? But keep in mind too, games were back. This was before the pitch clock. This was before, the bigger bases. This was before like all the stuff they're doing now to speed up the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why were the games going so fast in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s? Umpires were calling strikes. When you call strikes, the game goes a little bit quicker. They didn't have all these changes in the strike zones. Oh, now the high strike zone, instead of the belly button, now it's up to the chest. Then they bring it back down to under the letters. There's been so many changes to the strike zone. And it's almost like a battle of between the pitchers complaining too much and the hitters complaining too much. But when you look at the strike zones, even without the box, like a lot of the strikes were kind of obvious strikes. Even if it was like an inch or two off the plate, it was still a hittable pitch. But now it's almost like the umpires, either they're purposely being defiant because there are so many checks and balances, or not. They're not checks and balances because nobody's being held accountable for it. But it just seems like either they're purposely sabotaging, either they're under the influence of a gambler and they have a gambling addiction,
influence period,
or under the influence period, or they just are that bad. And it would be another thing if it was just one sport. We're talking about all the sports.
Yeah.
It's
But
across
all
the board.
sports are also getting more ways to see the mistake. I think about when I think about poor refereeing, and I didn't see it live, but I think about the USA basketball losing to Russia back in
72, the 72 Olympics.
72.
Mhm.
And they had the referee, I mean, whether it was like a conspiracy or whatever it was at the time, because there's so many stories about what
Yeah, weren't the referees from Russia or something?
I think one or two of them might have been something like they're I mean, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what's true.
I think two of the referees didn't know English. One was Swahili or some crap like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there was so much, but I think about all the way back then when you have referees that were making blatant mistakes then. But to go back to what you were saying earlier about the strike zone, yeah, I think that would probably be the best way to speed up the game is to make the strike zone. However, now you go back to another issue where you have low scoring games and people are uninterested. The uncommon fan is uninterested.
But back in those days, like yes, there was bigger strike zones, but players were hitting because you actually had 300 hitters. You know what I mean?
Players were hitting because they had to swing the bat a lot more.
Which again is true, but in every league you may have had like you may have had like 5 or 10 players that struck out over 100 times. Now you have what, like 45% of the league strikes out like 200, 250 times. I mean, Schwarber, who hit 40 plus home runs, did not have 100 RBIs and batted under. He was what, his batting average is like what, 170?
I don't remember because I don't work with numbers that low, but he wasn't good.
that was a really good diss. I appreciate that diss.
It wasn't good. I just know it wasn't good. Let us know what y'all thinking about. You know what we're talking about today. One of the questions that we asked is this the Phillies year because they're off to such a good start? I know we're still in April. We haven't even gotten into May yet. I know we want to know: are the Phillies? Is this their year? Let us know. Hit us up 669-275-0548. Last week we spoke about we were probably the last ones to mention that O.J. Simpson had passed away because he passed away the day after we recorded last week. So we gave our opinions on whether we felt like O.J. did it or whether he did not do it. Give us yours. We got a little bit more time left in the show. You can either hit us up 669-275-0548, or you can just leave a comment in the comment section. And of course, if you are checking us out right now, we appreciate you checking us out. Also on the New Twist Radio Instagram page right here, I got that live stream going on right now. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube right now, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on Twitch, hit that I think it's the subscribe button. Yeah, hit the subscribe button on Twitch because that helps a whole lot. And of course, if you're on Facebook or my Facebook page or anything like that, make sure you share this link with a friend or family or enemy, whatever the case may be. But either way, we appreciate you hanging out with us here on the Check Swing Podcast with myself and of course the brains and beauty of the operation, my man Coach Santa in the building, all the way down from Baltimore, having big fun. Baltimore. Shout out to Baltimore. I love Baltimore. Real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. I'm not as big in college football as I used to be. I don't know. I'm not as big I used to be huge in college football. I used to be huge in college basketball. And lately, I'm not as much. Should be more into football than I am basketball at this point because all the teams in basketball change every year. So, at least football, you have guys for a couple of years. Anyway, I'm blabbling.
I thought, you know what though? I thought I would actually get back into college football when they finally did the playoff format. Because right. But what got me turned off, it was one year it was like 94, I think, and Penn State was gonna play in the Rose Bowl, and they were obviously the best team in the nation. And I can't remember what team when the AP poll came out, and they decided, well, they're number two.
You talking about the Kerry Collins, Kajana Carter year?
I think so. I know it was in the 90s. They had an undefeated season, or they may have had one loss. But I know the team that wound up, it might have been Michigan. I can't remember the team that wound up taking number one. But when they started doing that, I'm like, so why doesn't number one play number two, and so on and so forth? And it was like it ruined it for me. It completely ruined it for me.
Oh, you're talking about when the playoffs, when they had the playoffs.
No, I'm talking about I'm talking about. I was watching college football young.
You say you were ruined before the playoffs happened. You thought the playoffs were going to bring you back, but it didn't. I got you. Okay.
Right. I mean, I watched the first year of the playoffs because I think I was interested in Oregon State. And I forget what other team I was kind of, eyeing at the time. And I was excited about it, but then I don't know, the second year it just didn't grab me. Maybe it was the teams that was in it, or maybe I was still kind of scarred by, and I know there was a conversation that I read about where they were talking about having a super conference where all of I think it would be like 80 schools, all of course Division I, and they would be backed by financial sponsors who would actually pay the athletes good money. And you know what I mean? And I'm like, do we want to?
It's dumb, but
I don't know if that's dumb, but it's weird.
But here is I don't know if you and I were talking about it or somebody else. Chip Kelly suggested, and I agree, they shouldn't have conferences in football. They just shouldn't. They should not have conferences in football because now in college football these days, you're heavily weighted because you play in the SEC.
Right.
Because you play in the SEC. You might be a bum in the SEC, but you're weighted because you play in the SEC. But you have other teams that are but they don't hold as much weight. So since these teams play each other all, basically, all season, but during the season, they give them the strength. Oh, they had to play Georgia, they had to play Ole Miss, they had to play, Alabama, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But Oregon may have went and played Michigan. They may have went and played, a team. They may have played Tech. They may have played a whole bunch of tough teams too, and then played in their conference. You know what I mean? So I think eliminating conferences in football, in college football, would be a good thing, especially with the playoff format. Now, in turn, I think college basketball should have conferences, because they have a tournament at the end. And yes, there is some weight to it, but you really have to, earn your spot into the tournament. But that's all I'm gonna say about that. Just get to a couple comments that came in while we were talking. When Daryl said that they said Maxey was fouled twice there at the end of the game.
Yeah, the NBA said, "Whoops."
Right. And then Monroe said on OJ, I was always suspicious of Faye Resnick and Nicole. Storyline came out that they had run up a big coke debt and OJ wouldn't pay it. Somebody might have been serious about collecting that debt. And it's interesting that he says that, because there is a video on New Twist Radio on the YouTube channel. If you want to go to it, there is a video that we did you'll see who the man is on the video, but they talk about, I was on the show. We talk about how there was a guy, Charlie, right? And if you follow the OJ stuff, there's that name has been tossed around there. There was a guy, Charlie, that was to collect a debt from OJ because of debt from a Coke bill. And just go check out the video. It's called OJ Was He Alone or something like that. I have to look at it. I'm sorry. Now I'm blanking on it. I look at it. I get people still comment. We did that about a year or two ago. People still commenting on this to this day. Um,
Y'all didn't bring up the Colombian necktie, did you?
that doesn't sound unfamiliar.
So they talked about this on the People versus OJ. It's a scene where I can't remember. I always forget the lawyer's name. The lawyer's name from Harvard. He faxes Johnny Cochran in the show. He faxes Johnny Cochran during the testimony, and he kind of looks back and laughs. And he asked the lead investigator, the one with the bald head, "Have you ever heard of a Colombian necktie?" He's like, "No." And I think Marsha Clark looked at him like surprised. So a Colombian necktie basically was the cutting style of drug lords when they collected a debt. They would kind of slit you in a certain way, like a bow tie,
Okay.
to get there, and they would cut your tongue out. So that's where they addressed the possible drug tie in the show. That's where they kind of added that. So
Gotcha.
when I hear anything about like the drug involvement, I always think about that scene about the Colombian necktie.
That might be where I heard that term before then, because it didn't sound unfamiliar. I don't know if we might have talked about that. We may have talked about that a little bit. I feel like it might have been mentioned. One thing we didn't talk about if something reason, I don't know if it was on this show or another conversation I was having, where there was talk about that there was a serial killer at that time in that same area, and he would cut people's throats or something like that. And like the way that Nicole and Ron Goldman were killed, they were saying that what's the word? It coincides with the way that these other people were killed
Right.
in the area. So it's so fascinating how you bring up OJ and you can just have conversation for hours.
Yeah.
For hours. Because I mean I don't know. Maybe it's because we were so locked into that trial.
Well, it was the first. It was literally the first reality show. It was the. I mean, you remember the NBA Finals was interrupted there.
Let me stop. You're right. It was. I remember because I was watching. It was Knicks versus the Rockets. The first reality show in my book.
Oh boy!
I always say this to the end of time. In my book, the first reality show was People's Court.
Dun dun dun. Don't banana.
I can't do the little, the roller times or whatever.
The congas.
Yeah, the Kong. I can't do that. but that music was pretty dope. That was some tough music on People's Court.
That's why they still use. That's why Channel 6 Action News still uses the same John from 1978.
They've never, they always use the same music. They are the only news with a theme song, with an intro song. Everybody else just comes on.
Right.
Action News is like, bring him in the world, my friend. And it's like it's an actual song.
Take a little bit of time.
It's an actual song. I kind of want to
move closer to your world, my friend, and you'll see.
Stop because
sorry.
Stop before they start turning us off. But they probably still with us too. But I lost complete track of thought just now. We were talking about that, and then a text came in. I completely lost track of what I was about to say. Well. Do you think if you're riding in a car, this might have been what I was going to say. If you're riding in a car, right? Yeah, forget that thought. Yeah, whatever.
We need to start taking ginkgo biloba so we can keep our thoughts in line.
Right. If you're riding a car and you hear that song come on, are you keeping it on? Or you're like, what the hell is this? And you turn it off.
I'm jacking that joint up.
Really?
Absolutely. Feel closer to your world, my friend, and you'll see. Yeah, man.
So off topic, but still on topic. Are you familiar? You're 45 minutes away from the area, but are you familiar with go-go music?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why, but the last couple of days I just been blasting go-go music in my car.
I mean,
Blasting go-go music in my car.
so I mean, it's just it's pretty much assigned as a DC thing, just like the Mamba
It's a-
sauce.
it's part of the culture in DC.
Yeah,
That's part of
yeah.
DC culture for sure.
But
For sure.
it's like Baltimore has its own kind of thing, but
Mhm.
it's almost accepted as like, well, we're Baltimore and DC is kind of like one, sort of, with a couple of
Mm,
minor things.
I I would. I tell you, I wouldn't say that. But what I would say, like, if you go to Baltimore,
Baltimore.
if you go to like, I'm from Philly, so if I go down to Baltimore, I'll know I'm in Baltimore. If I go to DC, I will know I'm not in Baltimore anymore.
Which
You
is
know,
true.
it's as close as they are in vicinity. They are to me, they are very different cities.
Well, DC is definitely. I mean, of course, size wise is bigger, but it does have like. I'll compare stadium wise. Like when you go to a game at Camden Yards, you know, it's like traditional, it's nostalgic, but it's like it feels like baseball. You know what I mean? Then I went to a Nationals Mets game, and it felt like artificial. You know what I mean? Because like the
First
seats
of
were
all, you
like
were watching the Nationals and the Mets. What the hell? You spent your
we
money. I hope you didn't spend your money on that ticket.
no, it was somebody's birthday who's a Mets fan.
Ah,
Yeah.
mm,
The Mets
gotcha.
not only lost, but they were beat like 9-1. They hit like 5 home runs in an inning. So
Oh, they got trounced. Okay.
yeah, and of course, me being from Philly, I'm doing my usual stuff like, yeah, you suck, and
Wait,
like they were like, we don't do that here. I'm like, are you serious? But the Mets suck.
they don't
But I
do
can
what?
tell, like, you don't boast too loudly. Exactly. And then I realized I looked at the atmosphere and I looked out in the center field and I was like, wow, look at all of those condos. And then I'm like, over here I can order food with my retinas. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Did somebody like actually tell you like we don't do that here?
Well, yeah, and then I was like joking around trying to do it again, and then like he kind of like tapped me on the like,
Wait, who was it? A stranger that told you that?
no. This was like it was a family that I was
Oh,
with.
you were with. It was a person you
Yeah,
were with.
they were like, I don't know if you want to, because
So,
I was
like, did you like this is fascinating to me because I've been to a game of I've been to a game in Baltimore and I know you're talking about DC. I've been to a game in
right,
Baltimore and it was Phillies were getting trounced and they gave me the business. But
different. Yeah.
when you after you heard that or after you were told that, did you like look around and like is that what you observed? Like that was not happening?
When like when you kind of make an off color comment and then you kind of look around the room and no one's looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened.
Mm.
I was
Damn,
like,
he must be from Philadelphia. You know, people like that don't say Philly, they say Philadelphia.
right. Um, because my other cousin, Mets hat, Mets shirt, all of this stuff. Maybe some mild boos, but it was almost like boo. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of like that. Like they didn't want to.
Come on, fans in other cities, get some cojones.
Now Baltimore, I went to a Baltimore Yankees, an Orioles Yankees game, and I remember Garrett Cole was pitching against Grayson Rodriguez, right? And you know how like they finish the warm ups and then they come all the way from the center field bullpen and make their way into the dugout.
Mm-hmm.
Ton of Yankees fans there, standing ovation, right? And then as they get into the dugout, like those fans that are there are letting them have it. Oh, you suck! Oh, you blow! Yeah, your mother, your father, I'll eat your sister. You know, stuff like that. I was like, okay, that's what I'm talking about. But even that, it was like, you know, but once they started winning, then it was, you know, or they actually wound up winning the game in the bottom of the eighth, so they did come back and win. So that was nice. But it wasn't like it wasn't the same atmosphere as DC because Camden Yards is a park that you can walk around, and they have new places where you can kind of like. It's almost like standing where like you can stand on Utah Street or you can stand out by the center field where Pratt Street is. So there's a lot of places you can kind of hang out and talk crap. You know what I mean?
It's different.
But
It's a ballpark.
right, but DC's a ballpark too. But you know, like you're coming up off the
They're
subway.
ballpark. They're new and it's more modern, up to date, modern amenities.
Correct.
Like going to these newer ballpark, newer football stadiums, but whatever the case may be.
Like
Um,
Philly fans have the attitude to attend sporting events. They don't need alcohol. DC needs like alcohol, cocaine, heroin, and like a pint of ice cream. Like that's what they need to be into the game.
that's quite the combination. I did want to mention something and it just popped into my head, and it's not in the notes, but you know about it. There is a rule change in baseball.
Mhm.
There's a recent rule change about fights. And the rule change is basically you're not going to be seeing bench clearing brawls anymore in baseball. The rule change has been if somebody leaves the bench, the dugout, to join into a fight, they are suspended. So it's basically the same rule as what's in the NBA. However, I feel like the NBA had to instill that rule because they had an image issue.
Right.
I don't feel like baseball had any reason to instill this rule. They had a bench clearing brawl on opening day, Mets and the Brewers. But like, as much as I think it's stupid that you can fight in hockey, I wouldn't just take it out of hockey like it's part of the game. You know what I mean? Like no bench clearing brawls. Well, fights are not part of the game in baseball, but bench clearing brawls are, right? Because almost any level of baseball, if a fight breaks out, everybody's jumping in.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody's jumping in. Miguel, what are your thoughts on the rule change?
I know that the commissioner has said that he's not going to renew his contract. I think it can't happen soon enough. I think when they originally started with the rule changes and added the clock, right? I think they're just happy, like, you know, we're doing stuff. Now let's do more stuff. And it's like you're doing too much. Um and I don't think that fighting or the bench clearing brawls is really part of baseball. Like they've drastically died down. And even when there is like an incident, it's pretty much everybody just kind of like pushing and shoving. Like I can't remember the last time somebody actually charged the mound. You know what I mean? Like most of the times it's like a brushback pitch to the head, but you know, the player will like point his bat at somebody or kind of walk towards the mound, but you don't really see like that all out like 1980s. and
You don't see Nolan Ryan and Robin Ventura.
Robin Ventura. And you know what's funny about the brawls prior to like 87? 98% of the time, the players weren't kicked out.
You're right.
They were. It was like, wait a minute. I saw one brawl where it was Reggie Jackson versus I think John Denny of Cleveland at the time, and he hit a home run off of him after he brushed him back. And apparently, it was the second time during for whatever reason. There's no video of the first time he rushed the mound, but after the second time he rushed the mound, there was two players that were dragging him off, and Reggie was like on his side like this, like clapping, like "Come on!" as they're carrying him off the field. That's when he got kicked out of the game. Not the first time, but the second time. I'm like,
because he was kind of ending it on the second time,
right? But they did kind of have a lot of brawls back then where players would just rush them out. But I really think that stuff kind of died down, especially like in the 2000s. Part of it, I think, was you got all these guys on steroids. Why am I going to fight that dude?
Well, I also feel like baseball in the Reggie Jackson era was more macho than it is now.
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely, Rico Suave and, stuff like that. And the other thing, too, in the National League, pitchers were able to hit.
Yeah, up until a few years ago, yeah.
Right. So it's like sometimes the pitcher will wait for the pitcher to actually come up.
You mean capable of hitting?
Capable of hitting, right.
Okay, got you. Sorry about that. Okay.
That's good. But yeah, it's like, but I don't see it's like unnecessary. Some things were just unnecessary. Like even the speeding up of the pitch clock, which I don't personally think is the reason for all these arms being blown out, but we could talk about that another time. But it's like, what you had was good. You're off to a good start. You have more fans interested. I mean, the Phillies had the shutout the other night with Ranger Suarez, 2 hours and 2 minutes, right? Absolutely perfect. You got action. It was quick, and everybody's in bed before 10 o'clock.
I'll tell you what. If I pay money to go to a baseball game, I want to be there more than 2 hours. That's just me.
And because you and I
tend to be about an hour and a half, give or take.
Because
games to be 2.5, maybe to 3. No, 3.5. About 3.5. No, 2.5. About 2.5. Baseball needs to be a drawn out game. I mean, I know for TV purposes, no. Right. But if I'm there, don't rush through the game while I'm there. Right.
Right. Right.
Take your time. Let me enjoy going to the concession stand. Like I'm the person that I get something to eat before I sit down because I'm not getting up.
Right.
And if I gotta go to the bathroom, I will hold it. I'm not getting up again because you're gonna miss something or a lot. Like I'm just
right.
It is what it is. But I guess we're gonna get up out of here. It's about that time. We're gonna get up out of here. We appreciate everybody for hanging with us here on the Check Swing Podcast. Everyone watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and share the link with your friends, family, and your enemies, all right? And your neighbors. And then also, if you were watching on the Instagram, appreciate you. Thank you for checking out the Instagram page, the Neutrals Radio Instagram page. Go over and check that out too. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I said that already. Subscribe to YouTube.
Twice.
Well, I need to say it again. Subscribe to the YouTube channel because you got to be able to do it. All right, we're gonna get up out of here. I forgot I got to hit all the buttons because I forgot I'm that person on the show. So we're gonna get up out of here. Maybe when we get popular and famous, we'll have somebody else pushing the buttons. But I gotta do it right now because I gotta get this thing out of here. But once again, we're gonna get up out of here. We appreciate y'all hanging with us here on the Check Swing Podcast. We will talk to y'all next week. Peace out.
Take a little bit of time to the